Hello and good afternoon, CSI 257 section 847 students. For the first 8-week term of the spring 2015 semester, the Cisco Networking Academy Scaling Networks course, which is Anne Arundel Community College Networking 3. So today's video tutorial is going to be on PacketTracer activity 9.1.2.5, which is a great activity on how to use a TFTP server to get your Cisco IOS loaded onto your switch or your router. As you can see, there aren't too many steps here, and it's actually pretty straightforward what we're going to be doing. And I also want to highlight, I get asked a lot, what TFTP server do I use on the Mac? So when on my Mac, I actually just use this TFTP server. If you were to Google for TFTP server Mac, you'll find it here. It's actually free, right? And it'll allow you to TFTP files back and forth on your Mac. And on the Windows side of the house, I've always been a big fan. If you come to solarwinds.com and go to free downloads, and then down toward the bottom, here it is right here. It's a TFTP server and SFTP SCP server. And you can actually download this, and it is, you get the free FTP server, or TFTP server if you'd like it, and it just stands for Trivial File Transfer Protocol. And so those are the two that I use depending on which platform I'm working on. So we'll kind of move these guys out of the way. All right, so let's jump into our activity here. So we're simply going to follow some of these steps to upgrade an iOS image. So let's go ahead and start out. So it says access the TFTP server and enable the TFTP service. So we're going to pull the TFTP server up, and I'm going to come to services, and I'm going to click on TFTP, and we're going to say on, and you can see all of the images that are here. So we've turned TFTP on. So note the iOS images that are available. We just took a look at those. So which iOS images are compatible with an 1841? Let me slide it over a little bit here. And if we were to say TFTP, they're going to be these first three that begin with C, 1841. You've got Advanced IP Services, K9. You've got IP Base, and then IP Base K9. Keeping in mind the K9 allows the encryption, the stronger encryption. All right, so from R1, we're going to issue the show flash command. So let me go ahead and pull this up. And we're going to slide this over here. We've got a little more real estate to work with than normal, so let's take advantage of it. And I'm going to go to the CLI here and go from user exec to privilege exec. And it says issue the show flash command. I'd lost my place there. All right, so here's what we have in the flash right now. We've got the C1841 IP base non-crypto image, so there's no K9 there. And it's from 12.3.14, and it's from the T-train. It's the 7th build of this image in the T-train. And so it says copy the IP base with strong encryption iOS image, which is the IP base K9 for the 1841 router from the TFTP server to R1. So how do we do that? So we're going to say copy from the TFTP server to the flash directory, and now it's going to ask for the IP address of the TFTP server. So I'm going to say 192.168.2.254, and the source file name, we're going to go ahead and use that same name they have listed up there. So C1841 dash IP base K9 dash mz.124.12.bin, and we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Now it's going to ask us destination file name. Well, when we put it in the flash, what do we want the name to be? We want it to be the exact same, so we'll go ahead and hit enter, and there it goes. And that was pretty quick. Typically it's going to be a little longer than that, but PacketTracer definitely makes it a pretty quick process for us. So let's verify that the image has been copied to flash. So we simply issue the show flash command, right? And so now you can see we have both images located here, And the next question actually asks us that. It says, how many iOS images are located there? Well, now we have 2. So if I were to reboot the router, if we do a show, is it show system boot or show boot? I'm trying to remember the command, and I'm not sure if PacketTracer has it. Let's check over here, and I think it's show boot system. No, show system boot. Huh. Yeah, shows it show system. Yeah, so there's a command. I'm actually having a problem recalling the command right now. But yeah, there's a command that you can run to change, and it might be that I don't have it set over there, but let's see what happens here. So we'll go ahead. It says use the boot system command from global config mode. So we're going to wait a couple seconds here for the domain to look up on my typo. So we've copied the file over from the TFTP server. We have it sitting in Flash. Now what we're going to do is we're going to instruct the router and tell it the next time you reboot, I want you to load the new file that we just TFTP'd over, which is that IP base K9 image, the 12.4 train. And it would load that image for us as opposed to, there we go, as opposed to another image. So we're going to go ahead and say conf t to go to global config. I'm going to say boot system and flash. We're going to say C1841 IP base K9 mz.124 12.bin. And I hit enter. So if I do a do show run, we should see that that command is in there. And this has got me, this is bugging me here. So if, on the regular iOS, if I type show run, you'll see, let's do a show run include boot, and it just shows those. It doesn't show the two. So that's what we've got in our Flash. So let's go to global config. Whoops. Let's go to global config mode, and I'll do the same command, boot system flash, and I'm going to cut and paste this. And let's see if it was because I didn't have it set. So now if I do a do show run include boot, alright, so that line is now there. So if I said do show, it's either boot system or system boot? No. I cannot remember the command. Do, whoops, sorry. Show boot. Yeah, that is interesting. Show system. There is no system off of show. Yeah, there is definitely a command. I'm just having problems recalling it. Alright, so we'll continue on here. Maybe we'll get some help. Okay, so we've changed it here on the PacketTracer. Now save our configuration, right? So we'll type in and then write memory. And then it says reload router 1. So proceed with the reload. We do. The router is going to reload, and now it's going to say verify the upgraded iOS image is loaded. Well, how are we going to verify that? Well, that's going to be, and we'll give it a second here. And this is the system bootstrap version. That is not the iOS version right there. So if you were seeing that and you thought that it was the iOS, that is not. So how do we confirm? So if I say show version, the system image is flash IP base K9. And so that shows us that we are using the right image. Make that a little larger there. So show version is going to confirm that for us. All right, so step 2 is upgrade an iOS image on a switch. So let's access the TFTP server and copy the C2960 LAN base image over to S1. So let's go ahead and pull up S1 here, switch 1. And on the switch, we're going to say show flash to see what's in there right now. As you can see, we've got the LAN base 12225 SEE1 image for a 2960 switch. So let's go ahead and say copy TFTP to flash. So again, it's asking for the host. We know it's 192.168.2.254. And now the image, we need to get the image name. So we're going to bring the TFTP server up here for a second and take a look at TFTP and where are the 2960 images. Here they are. And which one is it specifically asking? 1225FX. So this guy right here. So let's go ahead and bring the switch back up, and I'm going to say C2960-LANbase-MZ dot, and where's the rest of that? 12.2-25.fx.bin. And that's the file that we want to have, and same name, so we just hit enter, and there it goes, rather quick. So I'm going to close down the TFTP server window here. All right, so verify that the new image is in there, so show flash, and we do have it, and the first image listed in the show flash output is loaded by default. So if that's the case, if that statement is true, we should be able to, we haven't changed anything, I'm just going to do that just in case, and we're going to go ahead and reload the switch, and we should see, and maybe that command is a switch only command. So give me a second here, we'll let the reload finish here, because I'm telling you, I've run that show system boot command before. Maybe it was on a switching platform. So let's see, so show system boot? No, what about show boot? Aha! So the show boot, but this is not showing it. So hold on. Let's pull up some real Cisco switches here. And I've got a 3750, so if I were to type show system, no, not MTU, so maybe it is show boot system, show boot, right. So it is the show boot command, right? And here it shows me that I've got this set. Now we didn't set it here, so I'm going to do that right now. Let's see if it'll allow us to do the boot system command and flash, and we're going to go ahead and put that image in there. So we'll say C2960, and what I'm doing right now is I'm going to force it, even though the default is to boot the first image, we're going to force it to boot.22-25.fx.bin, and it didn't like that. Let me pull this back and see if it's looking for, there we go, it's looking for that. So now if I say do show boot, now it lists the image there. So this is where I saw it. I guess it was on the switching platform and not the routing platform. So show boot is a command that will show you if which image is going to get loaded the next time you reboot your switch. And so over here on the 3750, we're going to be loading the IP services K9 for 12.255.SE8. And I can go ahead and drop this down. And back on the PacketTracer, we would load that. So let's confirm that that works. So now I'm going to say write mem, because I've made a change, and we'll say reload. And it's the default, right? But I want to make sure that by changing that, it's going to come back up with that exact same image. You can see here we're getting a message telling us as much. So that's a good sign. So we've reloaded switch 1. So now the final step is going to be back up an iOS image to a TFTP server. And so we're definitely going to have to wait for this to finish, because the switch is in our transit path to the TFTP server. And while we're waiting for Spanning Tree to do its thing, we're going to go ahead and say show boot. And sure enough, the boot path list tells us that we will be booting this image here. And again, by default, if I type show flash, the first image that's listed here is going to be the one that gets loaded by default. All right, so let's pull up R2, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and boot R2. So we went from user exec to privilege exec, and it says display the contents of the flash. So I'm going to say show flash. You also see me type dir flash to list out. Gives you a little different format in terms of the listing, but both will show you the contents of flash. And so I'm definitely going to copy this to use it to paste later. So we're going to use the copy command. So what are we copying? Now we're not going from TFTP, right? We're going from flash to TFTP. So what are we going to copy over there? The source file name. We've already copied it, so there it is. And now it wants the address, 192.168.1.254, or .2.254, sorry about that, .2.254. And we're going to put it there with the exact same name. So we hit enter. It usually takes it a second or two, and the exclamation marks are good, just like in the ping command. And that's showing us that we've got connectivity over there and that the file is being transferred. Our final check is we're going to log on here and go to the TFTP services section, and we should see which image did we just put over there? I believe it was that image. Yes, or was it that image? Let me double check. See 1900. Oh, so the 1900 image is what we pushed over there. So this is the image here. Those were those 3 1841 images before. So here's the image that we just copied over here. And so this is a great way, very simple way to move files back and forth. Now, what you want to make sure you avoid at all costs is a mistake that you often see getting made, which is, remember that the switches and the routers, they pull the iOS file into memory to run it. So when I type dir flash, dir flash : or just show flash. So when I type those commands, you can see that this is the image I'm running here, right? But if I were to say delete from flash : and remove this, this is not going to impact, and we'll hit enter and confirm. So this is not going to impact the operation of the switch, because again, it's already loaded this image into memory. And so we're waiting for the prompt to come back here. So what's going to happen is the switch will continue to run, right? And there you go. It just took it a little while. So the switch continues to run. So I can type show run, and I'm able to see my configuration. But if I type show flash right now, it's gone. And so this is a mistake that sometimes gets made, is new learners will remove the file and then not think about what's going to happen if you reload. Well, if I reload right now, I'm in big trouble. So, and let me go ahead and show you what happens here. So if I say reload, we'll say no, we're not going to save our configuration changes, and I hit enter. The switch is going to go down, and it's going to try to come back up, but it's going to fail to come back up. And the reason it's going to fail is because we've removed the iOS. Because remember, it gets stored, it's in a volatile location when it's pulled into memory. So when we reload, that area of memory is flushed out, and therefore so is the iOS image that we were running. And I'm going to let it go ahead, and the 3550 unfortunately is a little slower than some of the other ones. But what will happen is it's going to try to come back up, and we're going to end up in sort of a ROM-mon type mode where it doesn't know how to boot itself up. It doesn't have, and here we go. And you can see we get an error message telling us error loading that file because we removed it, and then here we go. Now we're at what they call the switch prompt, and this is where it gets a little tricky. If I want to get an image back on here, I'm going to have to use what is commonly referred to as an X modem transfer, which means there are some commands that I have to run to prep the switch, and I'm trying to remember if so it'll show me there. So, excuse me, there's some commands I have to run to prep the switch to tell it that I want to copy something from X modem, if I'm not mistaken, to flash. And let's see if that works. So it says begin the X modem transfer. So if I come up here and I say transfer and send X modem, and you need to be quick because this is going to time out here, and it looks like it's taking a while. So we actually may lose it, but I'll get the window up that way on the next next attempt it'll work for us. So, but this is really the only way to get it there. And so, again, it's 9600 baud. You can tweak the speed of the console interface. You just need to remember to change it back, because not everybody might not be using the same. Let's see here. So Vault, and we're gonna say, where do I have this? Vendors, Cisco, and I think it's under iOS, and 3550, and so yep, so there we go. So I now have to do this X modem transfer. Hopefully I got it in there in time, and sometimes it'll show you the amount of time that you have to wait, and it could be 12 hours in some cases if you don't tweak the speed on the interface. So we'll go ahead and leave it here. Obviously, we're not going to wait for this to finish, but this is, once you delete the file and you reboot and you come back up, this is the only way to get an image on there, is to do an X modem transfer and push that image back into Flash, and it's being done over the console port. All right, so that wraps up PacketTracer Activity 9.1.2.5. We had a great opportunity to take a look here at how do we get iOS files onto routers and switches, how do we get them off routers and switches. We looked at 2 free TFTP server programs, SolarWinds TFTP server program, as well as the free Mac TFTP server program that you can use to move files to and from a TFTP server. And we also took a look at what happens if you remove your iOS by mistake, and that is going, and the same thing happens on the router, right? The router is gonna crash out just like the switch did, and we're gonna have to do an X modem transfer, which can be a very long process. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Saturday.